we're going to do. Before you can appreciate the gospel of Jesus Christ, you have to first recognize the magnitude of the problem. If you don't understand the magnitude of your problem, then you will never appreciate the solution to the problem. Are y'all following what I'm saying? What you first need to understand is the trouble you was in before you can appreciate what God did to get you out of trouble. All right? The gospel will never be appreciated, and you will never know how much God loves you until you understand where you are separate and apart from Jesus Christ. Are you following what I'm saying? I have found that some folk in the church struggle with giving God praise because you really don't know what God saved you from. And there are some people in the church that have a PhD at pointing out everybody else's sin, and they don't recognize that they got the same problem everybody else has. And so have no appreciation of the grace of God because you're so busy acting like you're so righteous and so sanctified and so saved that you can't even appreciate what God brought you out of because you're so busy trying to put on an act for somebody else, like you don't have no problem, that sin is not in your life, that you don't struggle with sin. But you ain't got to lie to me, because I already know that everybody in here struggles with sin and has difficulty with being right with God, because when God leads you to yourself, it's a hard task to try to live up to God's standard. Let me help you with this, church. I want to help you with this now. Hear me carefully. You on your best day fall short of God's standard of righteousness. Hear me carefully now. If God left you to yourself to reach his standard by yourself, you would have never ever been able to get to heaven. Let me help you, church. Watch this. This is going to mess with you. Heaven cannot be earned. Heaven is a gift. But if God left you to earn heaven, you would have never measured up. I'm going to show you the power in the gospel in a minute, because what some people think is somehow, some way, you can get to heaven on the basis of your own righteousness. What I'm about to show you is that God fixed it where you get to heaven on the righteousness of one. Okay, now y'all not feeling me yet. I'm about to get there in a minute. Watch this. Let me help you. I don't like to preach no verse without context. The book of Romans is the cathedral of Christianity. It's the magnum conum of the Christian faith. It is the comprehensive theological document that helps us to understand the comprehensive way that God unfolds the scheme of redemption. If you will never understand Christianity unless you understand the book of Romans. The book of Romans is a powerful gospel, or rather letter, that unfolds for us the gospel of Jesus Christ. Paul did not plant the church at Rome, but he's on his way to give relief to the church in Jerusalem. Tells the church at Rome that on my way back, on my way to Spain, I'm going to come through and I would like for you to give me some financial support. Romans chapter 15. Now, Paul was not the author of the church at Rome, but Paul had planned to get to the church at Rome, and he wants to send before him what he calls my gospel. And he wants to, this is a preparatory letter, so that when the letter gets there, they will have a comprehensive understanding of Paul's theology regarding the gospel of Jesus Christ. So in Romans chapter 1, he unfolds the letter with his thesis statement, and he says, I am a debtor to the Greek and to the barbarian, to the wise and to the unwise. So as much as in me is, I am now ready to preach the gospel to you that are at Rome also. And he says, for I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God unto salvation to everyone that believeth, to the Jew first and to the Greek. For therein is the righteousness of God revealed from faith to faith. For as it is written, the just shall live by faith. So what Paul does in that opening statement is he indicates that if you want to be righteous, righteousness comes comes by the gospel of Jesus Christ. Righteousness does not come based on your merit, but righteousness comes because Jesus Christ has offered us the righteousness in the gospel, so that when you obey the gospel, you can in fact be righteous. But before they can appreciate this, Paul has to show their need for this righteousness. So in chapter 1, he says the Gentile world is in sin. In chapter 2, he says the Jewish world is in sin. And in case you missed chapter 1 and chapter 2, he says all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And then in chapter 4, he uses Abraham to show that Abraham was justified by faith apart from the works of the law. In chapter 5, he says by one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin, and death spread to all men, for that all have sinned. But thank God for the second Adam, Jesus, that introduced righteousness, that those who obey Christ can receive righteousness apart from the works of the law. But somebody was going to say, Paul, you teaching too much about grace. It seems like you're trying to endorse sin. So Paul says in Romans 6 verse 1, shall we sin that grace may abound? He says, God forbid. How shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein? But by the time he gets to chapter 7, he wants to paint the picture of a struggle with sin. He said, when the law told me I was a sinner, it slew me and I died. And then I found myself struggling, trying to meet God's standard, but I keep on coming up short. When I would do good, evil was present with me. When I tried to do right, I ended up doing wrong. And that which I would, that is what I'm not doing. And the thing that I'm not doing, that's the thing that I want to do. Oh, wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from this body of sin? And he said, I thank Christ Jesus, who has delivered me and given me this righteousness. And in Romans 8:1, he says, there is now no more condemnation to them that are in Christ Jesus. So when you're reading Romans, Romans says that you did not get righteous based on your own righteousness. Now, watch this. Watch this. Here's what I'm about to show you. And some folk, it's so hard to believe that God is this good. God is going to make me righteous, even though I don't always live righteously. Let me show you how good this is. God is going to call me righteous, even though I don't always act righteously. See, some of y'all looking like, no, God didn't do that. Yes, he did too. Okay, watch this. Y'all in verse 19? Romans 3:19. Watch this. Whatsoever the law says, it says to them that are under law, that every mouth may be quiet. Let me help you. Chapter 1, he says, all you Gentiles in sin. So the Jews would say, yeah, you're right. They are in sin. Chapter 2, Paul says, now let me help you Jews. You just as sinful as them nasty Gentiles. The only difference is they sin without law and you sin with it. So whatever the law says, it says to you that are under it, so that not only do the Gentiles have to be quiet, you Jews got to be quiet too. Let me help you. That every mouth may be stopped is a legal concept. That means when you stand in court and the judge reads the verdict guilty, you have no response. That's the picture he paints, is that you are so guilty that if you stood before court and the judge read the verdict, you could not say, Judge, something's wrong with your judgment. When God read the verdict guilty, for Jew and Gentile, everybody had to be quiet. Oh, God, y'all not feeling it. Check this out. Everybody's got, why? Everybody's guilty. Gentiles, you're guilty without law. Jews, you're guilty with law. And everybody has sinned and come short. Now watch that. Now, this don't make no sense if you already think you're righteous without Jesus. Now, this sermon ain't for sanctified folk. This sermon is for those of us who know we messed up. And I want to show you how good God was in your mess up. Now, he says, everybody sin and comes short, Jew and Gentile. Now, the only reason you don't know how short you are is because you measuring by the wrong standard. One of the problems even among us in the Lord's church is some of us think everybody's short but us. Can I use one of these young men? Can I use you? Young man, can you come up front? Well, I don't know. All three of y'all stand up. Let me see something. Y'all do me a favor. Just one of y'all. No, I need a short man. You can come up. I'm going to pay you for it too. Good. Thank you, young man. This young man, thank you so much, is shorter than I for now. And it won't be long. Give him another year and it's over. But I like him. Because for one moment in time, I feel tall. Now watch this. Because I'm using him as my standard. And as long as I use him as my standard, then I don't feel like I have a problem. Are y'all following what I'm saying? And as long as I stand next to him for a moment in time, it takes attention off of my shoulders. So I like to find folk that are shorter than me, so that I don't look. Thank you, young man. Remind me to pay you for that. Well, when this guy stands up, when he stands up, I don't like him as much because he's a different standard and he exposes my shortness. I like the young man because for a moment in time I felt tall, but when I change the standard and I stand next to him, he reveals that I'm not as tall as I thought I was. We got a lot of folk in the church that got a PhD at finding folks shorter than they are and think that they're so perfect, but I dare you to stand next to Jesus and you'll find out that you're not as tall as you think you are. All have sinned and come short of the glory of God. It just depends on what standard you use. Are y'all following what I'm saying? And that's why we got folk in the church right now that can't appreciate the power of the gospel of Jesus Christ. You think you were righteous on your own, baby? You just as short as everybody else. Watch this. Can I teach this out? Whatever the law says, it says to them that are under the law, that every mouth may be stopped. Not only the folk that don't have law, but you with the law, you got to be quiet too. That the whole world may become guilty. All right, here's what God does. God says, when you Jews, when I put you under my standard, you kept missing the mark. Matter of fact, a few days after I gave it to you, you was already down at the foot of the mountain making an idol god. I just told you, have no other God before me. And they are missing the mark. And so Paul says, when you were under God's law, if you're trying to get to heaven on keeping law and law all by itself, you will keep coming up short. Y'all not feeling me yet because some of y'all think you can keep law perfectly. Let me help you. None of y'all in here can keep law perfectly. Let me help you. Under the Mosaic law, if you offended in one point, you were guilty of the whole system. That law required flawless obedience. And when a man missed the mark, he fell short of God's glory. And God said, if I left you like that, Okay, theoretically, there are only two ways to get to heaven. Theoretically. I know there's one. But for the sake of illustration purposes, you can get to heaven without Jesus. Here's how you do it. You must keep God's standards flawlessly. Do I have any volunteers? You want to get to heaven, and if you just believe you're so right, and if you believe you're so perfect, then keep God's law flawlessly, and you can get to heaven without Jesus. Only one problem. Ain't nobody been successful. Okay, which means I can't get to heaven on my own righteousness. I'm trying to show you how beautiful the gospel is. And if you don't get this right, you miss everything. Because you've got to first understand the beauty of the gospel message is that Jesus did something at the cross that you could not do for yourself. Then I'm going to show you how to obey the gospel to receive what he did at the cross. But you first got to know, what did Jesus do? He did for you what you could not do for yourself. But what happened? Christ is going to die so that you can be righteous, although you don't always live righteously. Okay, watch this. That sounds too good, don't it? Some of you are going, this ought to make you flip over a pew. Watch this. Watch this thing. This thing is powerful. Because if you're anything like me, I'm one of those preachers that's very transparent. I know even as a preacher, I ain't perfect. I don't even try to pretend and fake like I am. I'm just like you. I don't sin as much as I used to. I'm not sinless, but I sin less. Are y'all following what I'm saying? I ain't sinless. But I'm glad to know that I'm not where I started. God was patient with me so that it took me time to develop into it. And some folk act like when they came out the water, they was perfect. Let me stop lying. God saved you, and when you came out the water, you still have some of the same desires that you had the previous night. Y'all not going to help me along. And Christian dishonesty will make you not appreciate what God did for you. Okay, watch this. What's what the law says? It says that under the law that every mouth may be stopped. All right? And then he says that the whole world might become guilty before him. But then when you get to verse 20, he says, well, verse 19, he says, for the law was the knowledge of sin. All right? The law was the knowledge of sin simply means that the law defined sin. But it could not fix the sin it defined. Are you following that? So the law was a mirror to explain to you how ugly you are, but it could not fix the flaws that it revealed. Are you following what I'm saying? It was the knowledge of sin. It was designed to make sin appear more sinful. But the law was not the remedy to the sin problem. It was designed to simply tell you, you are guilty. That's why Paul said in another letter, he says that the law was a schoolmaster to bring us unto Jesus. You ain't never going to come to Jesus till the schoolmaster helps you see that you need Jesus. Okay, watch this. Okay, verse 20 says, but now, look at verse 20. But now. But now. Okay, God, what you mean but now? But now is a transitory statement. It's a contrastive analysis. It means from verse 19 to verse 20, something changed. Whatsoever the law says, it says to you that are under the law. That means your righteousness can only come by law, but you can't miss in the this side. Let me help y'all see this thing. What's under the law says? It says to you that under the law, you live under the law, you got to keep the law perfectly, flawlessly. That was the system the Jews were under. But now, God's fit to do something that he didn't do before. Well, what you gonna do, God? I'm gonna now reveal a righteousness that comes separate and apart from law. Let me do some COC stuff. We under the law of Christ, but it's not the same kind of law. Now God gives a righteousness separate and apart from law keeping. In other words, separate and apart from a legal system that requires flawless obedience. Do y'all see that? I think some of y'all think y'all could have survived under that law by how you look at it. You could not survive under a legal system that requires sinless obedience. Are you following? No way. It wasn't going to happen. You've already tried it. You under constitutional law, and many of you got speeding tickets. You constantly, y'all not going to help me along with it. You constantly messing up. So, and even when you didn't get caught, you made a U-turn when you should have no business making a U-turn. You saw the no U-turn sign. You made it anyway because you break law. It is what you do. There's something about you that is a law breaker. And when God gives you the law, you always mess up. I'm trying to help somebody appreciate this gospel, man. And you will not appreciate the gospel until you appreciate the cross. Jesus did something at the cross. But now, apart from law, now those of you who are scholars and you study the Bible, there's always one or two people now that have iPads and all of this digital stuff, and they can look up what you're saying while you're preaching. Apart from law, the word law there, nomos, does not have a definite article before it. So it's not apart from the law, it's apart from law. Now the reason he doesn't have a definite article there is because he's explaining the nature of law as he compares it to Mosaic law. The context is Mosaic law, but the nature of that law is that it's a legal system. And no Christian can be justified by any legal system. So Paul uses the generic term. He says we are made righteous apart from law, not just without the Mosaic law, but apart from any legal system that requires perfect obedience. Apart from law. Now the righteousness of God is manifested apart from law. Watch this. Being testified by the law and the prophets. Okay. Oh God, I'm trying to teach this out, but I'm fitting to run around this building. Listen, he says the law and the prophets testify that you cannot be justified by us. The law said, I can't fix your problem. So the law testifies. The law said, I reveal sin, but there's somebody coming after me that's going to fix the sin problem. My job is just to reveal that you got a problem. But I'm testifying that somebody's fit to come after me that's going to fix the problem that you have. Jesus said, search the scripture, for in them you think you have eternal life, but they are they which testified of me. And all through the Old Testament, they were testifying that somebody's going to come that's going to fix the problem that the law couldn't fix. Genesis chapter 3 and verse 15, I will put enmity between thee and the woman, between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, thou shalt bruise his heel. Genesis chapter 49 and verse number 10, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, neither the law give a from between his feet until Shiloh come. Isaiah chapter 9 and verse number 6, unto us a child is born and a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Deuteronomy chapter 18 and verse 18, I will raise them up a prophet from the midst of their brethren, like unto thee I will put my words in his mouth. He shall teach all that I shall command him. Micah chapter 5 and verse number 2, oh, Bethlehem and praise the Lord, thou be little among the thousands, yet out of he shall it come forth that is to be king in Israel. y'all better get me out of here. I'm trying to calm down because they just kept seeing him come. The prophets kept saying, here he comes, here he comes. Now, he says, but now the righteousness without law has been manifested, justified by the Lord and prophets, that whoever believes in Jesus can receive this righteousness. Watch this. He says, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. But watch verse 24. Being justified freely. Being justified freely. Okay. If you're reading another translation, it says being justified as a gift. Okay, y'all not feeling me. Now watch this. The word justified is a legal term. That means as if you never did it. I got to get out of here. Y'all watch this. Justified means it's a legal term. It's a court term. That means God declares you righteous. Okay, let me explain how that works. This is the pickle. How you gonna claim I'm righteous when righteousness means I've been compliant with law, but I'm a lawbreaker? Hold up. Oh, and this made the Jews struggle. They were like, no, wait a minute. You mean tell me that one man made me righteous without law, and then you telling me I'm righteous based on him? Can't be. Justification says, I'm sorry, I'm taking this long. Justification means that God declares you righteous, even though you haven't complied with the law. And he does it through Jesus. And he says it's a gift. Let me help you. It's about to mess y'all up. Y'all ready for this? This is for folk that really feel important. This is for folk that really think you're important. Let me show you how unimportant you are. The word Dorion, gift, means that God, when he sought to save you, he saved you without cause. Let me help you with that. Freely means you didn't do nothing to make God be moved to save you. When God needed to find a reason to save you, he had to search himself. It is he that loved us and not we who love him. So there's nothing about you that made God say you've earned my favor. So when I saved you,